Welcome to episode 463 of the Thunder Underground podcast. We've got a great one as PJ Farley is back on the podcast. Last time he was here was right about 6 years ago in the summer of 2020. And at the point that he was on here last time, it hadn't been announced yet that he was in Fozzy. That announcement came a month or two after he was on here. And also Trixter wasn't active at that point, and they're active now. So we've got a ton to talk about with PJ. All the happenings with both Trixter and Fozzy. Of course, he's got some solo music, and he's been a member of the band Raw since almost the beginning. We're going to talk about that as well. Raw, that's R-A. If you're not familiar with that band, I implore you to check them out. A highly, highly underrated rock band that never, they had some success on radio in the early 2000s, but they're a band that never truly kind of got the due and appreciation I think they deserve. And PJ's been a part of that story since the beginning, but been a part of the band since almost the beginning. So look forward to hearing that story here coming up shortly with PJ. But before we get into all this talk about Fozzy and Trixter, I need to let you know who sponsors this podcast. Sunset Tattoo is a tattoo shop located in Midtown Tulsa. Their tattoos are done good and proper. Of course, they're state licensed. They've got over 30 years of experience between Jake and his crew over there. Native American owned. A female artist on staff full-time. It's a great place. Walls are decorated with memorabilia from rock and metal throughout the years. Jake has tons of stories. Get in there and check out all their work. You can see it online right now on their socials at Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on both Instagram and Facebook. Shoot them a message to set up a time to schedule an appointment to talk about what work you're looking to have done. They can help you bring your ideas together. If you already have an idea ready to go, they can, of course, help you out with that. They accept walk-ins, and they run specials all the time. So hit them up on their socials and tell them you heard about them right here on Thunder Underground. We've also got DEB Concerts, concert promoter based out of the Tulsa area that's been bringing great shows to Tulsa for nearly a decade. Hard rock and metal shows, even hip-hop as well, like Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Megadeth, Last in Line, Buck Cherry, Saxon, all over the place. And they also book the DEB concert stage in the Roadhouse area at Rocklahoma every year. This year is no different. That stage will feature Molly Hatchet, Slaughter. Mark Slaughter's been on this podcast a couple times. She Hates Me Not, an Ozzy tribute, a Van Halen tribute, and the mighty, I say mighty twice, Ugly Kid Joe, one of my favorite bands of all time. So happy that they're finally at Rocklahoma. Speaking of Ugly Kid Joe, last time I saw him live was about 3 years ago, I think, and PJ Farley was in the opening band, which was Fozzy. Didn't think about bringing up that tour, but maybe next time PJ's on. But back to the subject at hand, which is DEB Concerts. Check out them on the socials. Check out their website. And of course, hit up rocklahoma.com for the full lineup. And speaking of Rocklahoma, our other sponsor is the Rocklahoma Bitches. They're a mainstay at Rocklahoma now. Going out there since 2011. I'm sure you've seen them. They're always handing out their merch. They've got tons of it. And the best part is they hand it out for absolutely free. They never charge for anything because these are charitable, wonderful women. They also bid on the guitars that are sold at Rocklahoma every year for auction for charity. They always have guitars every day that are signed by the performing artist, and Christy usually bids on those and usually wins at least one throughout the weekend. They also sponsor the Cancer Sucks benefit that happens at the end of every year in Tulsa at the Cain's Ballroom. Such a great event, a great cause, and the Rocklahoma Bitches are great individuals who love the spirit of Rocklahoma. And guess what? We're going to be talking to them, I wouldn't say very soon, but soon, probably within a month and a half. Going to have those lovely ladies on this podcast for the first time, Christy and Kendra, talking about Rocklahoma Bitches, this year's Rocklahoma, and of course, all the years that we've all been at Rocklahoma. So look forward to that coming up as well. Once again, a huge thank you to Rocklahoma Bitches. All right, speaking of Rocklahoma, Trixter, has played Rocklahoma before. I believe the last time that PJ was on in 2020, Jason was still co-hosting the podcast with me, and I think we brought this up. I'm pretty positive we did, because I know we brought it up with Mark Scott, the original drummer of Trixter, when he was on here. But Trixter played in 2008, the second year of Rocklahoma. And they were the band that was on stage when the storm hit. and everybody talks about this storm in 2015, and that was a big one. But the storm in 2008 was a bit bigger. There was tornadoes in the area. The second stage got not completely blown down, but part of it was knocked over due to winds. If I remember right, a couple people got injured, but thankfully no one was hurt critically or anything like that. But yeah, like when they're performing is when I believe it got cut like 3/4 the way through their set. But Mark Scott on the episode he was on, that was a long ass time ago now, probably 10 years ago maybe, because this podcast has been going over 11 years. But when Mark was on talking about it, it was kind of a, he had that bird's eye view from the drum throne back there, and you see that storm coming in, and that was it's just one of those days that I hold, kind of high in my concert history, because it was just, obviously it sucked that, there was a big storm, but later on when the bands came back on, Kicks went out there and put on, one of the best performances I've ever seen at Rocklahoma, and it started raining again, and it was like pouring rain, and it was like to the point, my bald ass head was like the rain was hitting it and it was stinging. That's how hard it was hitting. But that whole VIP section and like the front areas of the GA was packed full, and no one was leaving, because Kicks at that point had not been performing much. It might have been their first show back. This, side note, that was Trixter's, I believe, first show back, reunited since the 90s, since like 95. And Kicks, it wasn't their first show back, but they had been playing very rarely, so that's why it was such a big deal. And then later that night, Warrant played, and it was the full original lineup of Warrant with Janie Lane on vocals. One of the final shows he had performed with them, because he played with them that summer, and then unfortunately passed away the next, I believe it was 2 years later. But anyway, at that show, Warrant played All My Bridges Are Burning, which might not mean anything to you, but it means a hell of a lot to me, because that album Dog Eat Dog is a masterpiece, and that's just like a super deep cut that I was pretty shocked to hear him play. But I'm getting way off tangent here. Brought that up because, PJ was with Trixter at Rocklahoma. Another note I wanted to bring up that I didn't bring up because I did last time. But the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, speaking of Warrant and Trixter, that tour also featured Firehouse. This was 1991, and that was my first concert ever. Jason, who used to do the podcast with me, it was his first concert ever. So it's always kind of cool to me when I have anyone on. It hasn't been a ton of the guys, but I've now had on, like I said, Mark Scott, PJ Farley. We've also had on Joey Allen from Warrant back in the day. And who am I forgetting? Bill Leverty, the guitarist for Firehouse. I've always brought it up to him, because it's one of those tours that people hold in high regard that were around back then and went to it. It's kind of like the quintessential party tour, a really cool triple bill for the time period. And when you kind of look back on it, it's almost kind of like the swan song, or not the swan, what's the right phrase, like the stamp on the ending of that era almost, because 92, some of these bands were still getting radio play, but 92 is when everything started to shift completely from the melodic rock, the hair metal, into grunge and everything else that was going on. But yeah, Blood, Sweat, and Beers, if you happen to make it to that tour back then, drop a comment wherever you're listening to this. Let me know where you saw it. I saw it at the show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The one they did on pay-per-view that was in Louisiana. I can't remember if it was Shreveport or Lafayette or where it was, but that show was either the one right before or right after Tulsa, if I remember right. So that you can find that on YouTube. It's not super high quality video unless someone has restored it in recent years. Last time I watched it was a few years ago, but there was like a VHS copy someone had uploaded years ago. All three bands come out at the end on that tour and played Beastie Boys' Fight for Your Right to Party. Like literally all members of all three bands. It's like 15 or 13, 14 guys. Speaking of festivals, I recently saw Fozzy, part of their set at Welcome to Rockville. That's something we're going to talk about here coming up with PJ. a bit about Fozzy, playing these DWP festivals, and of course Trixter playing M3. PJ's kind of got a great cross section that a lot of guys in the music industry don't get, because he's in a couple different bands that are in distinctly different rock genres that play different types of festivals. So he gets to, slide around between these two sides, and of course play the cruises in the same facet. Like Fozzy would play something like Shipwrecked, while Trixter plays something like Monsters of Rock. So it's a very cool aspect to his career and what he gets to do. And of course he's been doing it with Raw and Trixter from well before he was in Fozzy. So this has been a good chunk of his career. He's been crossing genres like this. He's of course a member of Kuarentine as well. If you're not familiar with that, that's Kuarentine with a K. And as you could guess by that name, the band was birthed during the pandemic. And it's Kuarentine with a K because they're a Kiss cover band. And it features his friend and vocalist from Fozzy, Chris Jericho, as the vocalist of Kuarentine. And they focus on nothing but unmasked Kiss, I believe. I saw some set list. I think they throw in a couple sometimes, like classic songs like Detroit Rock City here or there, but for the most part it is entirely 80s and early 90s unmasked Kiss. The stuff that, got underlooked for the most part outside of a few of the hits that Kiss would still bring out, like Look It Up, or what else am I forgetting that they would actually play live in the set list in the later years of Kiss. Not much, but I'm a massive fan of Revenge, and Kuarentine released a cover of Unholy this past year. So check that out if you've not. They've released a few singles throughout the years. They're now on tour. Well, not at this very moment, but they will be later this summer. They toured last year. So this is a full-on machine now. This wasn't just a pandemic project. That's something else we're going to talk about here coming up. So look forward to that. And, speaking of that kind of full circle, I don't know why I didn't think about this when I was talking to him, but Trixter opened up for Kiss, I believe, on the Revenge tour, when PJ would have been like 20 or around 19 to 21. And here he is all these years later in a band with one of the most famous wrestlers of all time, performing these songs and doing it with a stamp of approval from Kiss, because they played the Kiss Landlocked cruise that they've done the last 2 years in Vegas, and Bruce Kulick has performed with them, and Bruce Kulick, of course, is a big supporter of them as well. Speaking of Bruce Kulick, he's been on this podcast in the past. And speaking of Kiss, Gene Simmons has also been on this podcast in the past. So check both of those episodes out. And speaking of festivals, recently I was at Warped Tour in Washington, D.C., and I got the chance to, I was working obviously, but I got the chance to see at least a couple sets. One of them I saw was the band Holy Wars. I've, heard their music throughout the years and always dug it. And then I had some free time and saw that they were about to go on, so I got over there and checked them out. And they put on a stellar live show. So if this is a band you're not familiar with, look them up. They're very modern metal, but they mix a lot of elements together. They've got a great stage presence. The singer, she went into the crowd. A lot of people do that, but like fully went into the crowd, still singing, very aggressively. It was a very cool performance. And I would suggest you check them out if you had not gotten a chance. The other band I saw live is a band I've seen live probably 12 to 15 times at this point. One of my favorite bands ever is Machine Head. They performed at Warped, which they don't really feel like a Warped Tour band. But Warped, always had a metal band here or there. And since Warped came back as a destination festival the last couple years, they've had a lot of bands that, fit the metalcore vibe, because that kind of crosses into the Warped realm, like Killswitch Engage and August Burns Red and everything in that realm. But this Warped Tour also had All That Remains, which also could cross into that category. Machine Head. I'm trying to think who else played that day. There was someone else pretty heavy. I don't know, I'm drawing a blank, but just they kind of, shot or Suicidal Tendencies, but they also obviously fit because they're skate thrash or whatever, combo genre you want to call Suicidal Tendencies. Another one of the great bands of our lifetime. Unfortunately, I was working when they went on stage, but yeah, Machine Head put on Another killer performance. It's short, because Warped Tour sets are short, but they hit the high points. I posted a compilation video of clips from three of the songs they played on my YouTube. Well, it's on all the socials, so look that up. There's also a video of Holy War performing as well. So check both of those out. And of course, follow on all the socials because there's daily content coming out that is separate from these podcast episodes. All right, let's jump into this talk right now. Here's PJ Farley of Fozzy, Trixter, Raw, and Kuarentine. Oh, and let's not forget Eric Martin of Mr. Big. He is part of the Eric Martin band as well. Here's PJ Farley. I was kind of curious because looking at that show on the flyer, it looks like two separate sets, but the description makes it sound like you and Ben are playing with Anthony, or what's the?
It's all separate sets. So it's
Oh, okay.
I think Christian Shields is playing, then Perma Crush, and I believe then I'll play and Ben will play with me, and Anthony will play, and Ben plays with Anthony too.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So is this primarily you doing your solo stuff, or are you mixing in Trickster as well, obviously, or?
Yeah, I'll probably do a Trickster song or two, But yeah, pretty much focus on my stuff because I won't be playing, I'll probably play maybe an hour. So there's a lot to get in.
Do you get that chance that often to do solo sets in between,
Not really.
everything you got going on? No.
I've been doing it, more frequently as of the last like 6 months. But yeah, I just try to, when I get a free weekend, try to get out and do it,
Yeah.
have all this material.
Yeah. But yeah, I was hoping to be able to open this talk with you about, maybe placing a wager on the Thunder versus the Knicks, but unfortunately, that's
Yeah,
not
I
a
was
thing.
like,
So,
oh man, I hope I don't got to go in there and, in my Knicks colors.
right. Well, yeah, I'm pulling for you now because this is the first time since the 90s, right? Since they've
Yeah,
even been in the
since
finals.
they faced San Antonio and lost.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
redemption arc in process, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's all ours. It's all ours.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, last time I spoke to you on this podcast was right about 6 years ago. It was like July of 2020 in the heart of the pandemic. So a
Yeah.
lot's changed for you since then. You weren't in Fozzy yet at that point. Trickster wasn't active as a three-piece at that point. So, do you feel like more busier than you ever? You've always been a busy dude, but do you feel busier now than you ever have, or is that just kind of how it looks on the outside?
No, I mean that might be right because yeah, literally since August 2020, I joined Fozzy. Um, Quarantine had already started to take shape. Um, then, we started doing Trickster acoustic at first in like 2021. And yeah, I think I've always had a lot going on, but yeah, I definitely have a lot of burners consistently going now.
Does it feel good to like be at that point to where it's like, I assume you're kind of at a point where you're not thinking about what am I going to do next? It's just happening because it's all in line or
Yeah, well, you're always trying to stay one step ahead, and uh, not so much, predict or, but you want to kind of keep your eye on the ball, so to speak. But yeah, in a very fortunate position to where I can be in literally a handful of traveling bands, and make it all work, and make it my living. So that's yeah, that's something I'm grateful for every day because I can't do anything else. I've never had a chance to. So this is it. So I'm gonna do it as much as I can.
right. Well, I spoke to you, for a few minutes at Rockville, and I want to bring that up because, Fozzy, you guys went on fairly early in the day. I feel like it was around like
Yeah.
1 p.m. or something, 1 or 2, and then I saw your video from Sonic Temple around the same time of day. And back in the day, at least at festivals, if you went on at that time, it was fairly sparse crowd, and at least at Rockville and Sonic Temple, you see that this crowd is in full force at these DWP festivals that early. I
Yeah.
mean, is that something you've noticed like a change over the years? Because I know you've played festivals with Raw and everything else throughout the years. Of course, Trixter, but
Yeah. I don't know. I think those festivals, especially those Danny Wimmer festivals, are just so huge. They're like, um, I mean, nothing is bulletproof and nothing is, you know, protected from the blue dot fever and the economy. But
right.
man, I like to think that people really chose, um, you know, those festivals to be, on the map for them and on their schedule, and everything else is kind of a game time decision and a walk up scenario. But yeah, man, to I was not expecting that many people at that time of day. I knew it would be crowded.
Yeah.
We've done Louder Than Life and we've done those festivals before where they're good. But man, to go on a Thursday at, whatever we did, 1 o'clock or 12:30 or something, and to have 30, 40,000 people there,
Yeah.
where we were going on, I mean, I think somebody came back to the bus and said, "Hey, there's a lot of people out there." I was like, okay, good. I mean, I wasn't expecting that many.
Right.
Same with yeah, I think we went on a little bit later at Sonic Temple, and that was just mind blowing how many people were there for us.
Yeah.
For at that time, I should say. On a Thursday, no less. Both shows we did the Thursdays, right?
Right.
So I was like, man, doesn't anybody work? They worked, they got their money, and then they quit their job and they went to 4 days of a women festival.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see because I feel like I've kind of seen that at festivals over the
Totally.
last 2 or 3 years, like especially the DWP ones, this shift in like rock music feels like as a big a thing as it did, in the 90s, at least to me now.
Yeah, it was really refreshing, just being a touring musician and knowing how hard it is to get anyone to come out in any way, shape, or form. You know, um, I would have been happy if the amount of people who saw us those days were there at the end of the night,
Yeah.
let alone be there by the time we went on. So seeing that crowd there so early and just get bigger throughout the day was, just showed there is hope,
Yeah.
but it is alive.
Right. When I know Fozzy's been playing Crazy Train live, and of course you guys released the studio version as well. Like as a
Yeah.
bassist, when you perform that in front of 30, 40,000 people, like what's that kind of feel like that pop, like right when people hear that opening, that bass line, is
Yeah,
that
it definitely takes on a different shape because I've been playing that song since I'm, 10 years old,
yeah,
and I've played it for, anywhere from somebody sitting in my room to, 20 people in a bar. And usually, for majority of the time that I've been playing it, it's just been playing it for, people in a bar somewhere or something, so it takes on a different life when you have that many people going crazy for it.
yeah,
That's the way you play Crazy Train.
right. Yeah, and you got to give, I mean, Jericho's voice lends very well to the Ozzy
Yeah.
style of singing. I mean, you've seen that from the beginning when Fozzy covered Over the Mountain and clear up to now with Crazy Train. It's like a kind of a perfect match.
Yeah, it's his wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, Crazy Train as as a single, you guys, recently released, I Know Evil, and you've released 4 or 5 standalone singles since Boombox. Is that kind of the direction that, Fozzy's going in, or is that just
Yeah.
the way you're doing it right now?
I mean, we'll see, but
Yeah.
for right now, it's on a case by case basis, I think that's just where we're at from a um, business standpoint. I think,
Right.
and Chris says it best, it's like the band released Boombox, which, and I'm a fan of Boombox because it was done a year before I even joined the band. It's just sitting. Um, And I'm like, man, this is a great record. And I kind of share his feelings that it's a shame because, you release a couple singles, and then boom, it's over. That's it,
Yeah.
you know. And you've all those songs on that record that are just so good, and no one's really going to hear them. So, and we live in the, playlist generation, and it's a single driven world. It's like going back to the 50s where we're gonna cut a record, and
Yeah.
it means we're gonna, put a 45 out, and put your song on the radio, and that's it. And it'd be the one song, and you go on tours with, the Wonders, you
Yeah.
know. Now they play their hit, you know, the Oneaters, and then they're done. Plug in somebody else, and they play their song. So, but yeah, I mean, it is such a tour de force to make a record under any circumstances. But nowadays, it's like, man, I don't think people realize how much goes into making a record. Um, First, writing a record. Let's start there. You have to write a record that you feel is good enough to go in then and record.
Yeah.
Then feel good enough about those recordings to go, okay, let's put that on a record. And then, and then so on and so forth. All the steps and all the, you know, mental stuff that goes into making a record, and the physical, and just the labor of it all. And it all falls on us now. It all falls on the bands. So, I mean, between doing all that stuff, behind the scenes stuff, and the creating and the producing and the manufacturing and then the selling, the promoting, it's, I mean, and for, let's face it, not a whole lot in return these days. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to put a song out
Yeah.
and put it on the radio and let you know that we're still here and we're still going to be on tour, and you come see us live, and hopefully you buy some merchandise, and, and hang out with us, have a great time.
Right. Well, I mean, I mean, it's not completely full circle, but in a way, I mean, when you started, you're probably dealing with record companies like, trying to put their input on what you're doing. And now you're dealing with trying to figure out everything as a band on your own without, I mean, I'm sure you guys are with a label, but like not as much, like it's more of a DIY situation, even on a established
Right.
band,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't really count on labels now. I mean, you still have to pretty much do it yourself.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, especially for newer bands, like, labels don't want to talk to you until you've done all the work. I mean, and realistically, if you've done all the work, then you just find some guy with some, you know, kick around money that wants to help a band. Hire a team, hire the right team. You can do it yourself. You don't need a label. They're just going to take your money. So,
Yeah.
that's really what a label is. It's money,
Right.
and the right people to work it, but they have to decide to do that and not give up on you. So yeah, it's definitely confusing times and challenging times for musicians and making and putting out music.
Yeah. Well, after Boombox is the first track you were on Spotlight, like that you played on, or
Spotlight, yeah,
or
Spotlight was the first song that was done since I joined the band.
okay.
And was there something after that? I mean, singles for Boombox we were trickling them out for so long.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we went back and released "I Still Burn,"
Yeah.
um, like a year and a half after the record came out, and we were like, you know what?
Just
No one's heard it. We're not on anyone's schedule anymore. It's like we could literally do whatever we want if we're gonna put our money where our mouth is. Who's to say we can't release a song off? I firmly believe that we can go back right now and pull a song off of Boombox and put a single out. Who's
yeah.
gonna know?
Yeah.
You
Outside of
know, so
diehards,
many, yeah, so many people don't have the full record, that who's gonna know? So I mean, yeah, I lost track of the single count. But yeah, that's one of the pitfalls of doing it that way.
Right.
Things not
But
attached, and we have to, I have to wrap my head around that model, because I'm so used to, singles being attached to, a product,
yeah.
not releasing four singles and then going, okay, the record's out, sayonara.
Right.
I still to this day don't understand that process. I firmly believe, put a single out, boom, next month put the record out,
Yeah.
because, and then continue to promote it. But I mean, this whole theory behind put singles out, for 4 months in advance, and then the record comes out, and then if you, especially if you're on a label, they just drop it and they move on. So I don't know.
Right.
Maybe somebody can teach me.
Right. Well, Sin, I mean, have you been involved in the writing process on like these newer ones? Like,
No,
I know
no,
Evil thing, or is that like a Rich and Jericho thing, or
that's more of a Johnny Andrews, our producer,
oh, okay.
and Rich. Yeah, I think they started working with Johnny Andrews, who's has had the hot hand, especially at Active Rock Radio for a decade now, at least, if not more, writing with like Nothing More and 3 Days Grace,
Mhm.
Hailstorm. He's got like kind of the magic touch, and I think um, working with him on Judas, they really said, well, this worked, and so now everything kind of starts with Johnny and all the way down to the production and stuff. And so Johnny will come up with something, Rich and Johnny will get together and, um, maybe they'll sift through some ideas that Johnny has, and Rich will go, yeah, let's, build on that. And, or Rich will maybe come up with something. But yeah, those are the two culprits for anything new in the Fozzy land.
Okay. I mean, you saying that makes sense to me now because I mean, I've noticed over especially the last decade the kind of a shift to that, like you mentioned, Breaking Benjamin or Nothing More, that kind of electronic element put in with the, that's always kind of evident with Rich's guitar as well.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Fozzy's kind of definitely um been leaning ever since like say Spotlight more towards that synth-based, you know, vibe. Where you still have, like a Rich Ward tone on there,
Yeah.
and like a breakdown in there that lets you know that it's still some Fozzy ass kicking guitar driven, but the foundation of the songs have really been more of a um, synth based kind of vibe, more of like oh, who's that band? It's skipping my brain right now, but yeah, it just I don't know, just gradually turned that corner really, and just kind of took on that shape ever since, I would say, since Spotlight. And the fans have really kind of embraced it, it's because I mean, you listen to some of the older records and then you listen to the new stuff, it's you know worlds apart, but it
Yeah.
still has the same elements that make a good Fozzy song. So and that's really the nature of being a good band, and is evolving, and always evolving. And I mean, look at Jericho. I mean, he's constantly reinventing himself, and that's what he prides himself on. And so I think Fozzy's kind of taken that kind of motif, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good I mean, as a wrestling fan, you see that him do that with his wrestling gimmicks. So it's like I never really thought about that with music, but
Yeah.
Fozzy's obviously changed, yeah, a ton over the past 25 years. So
Mhm.
like as a, as joining the band and playing the songs live, is there anything specifically that you kind of like honed in on or like adapted to like really quickly that like you enjoyed the most or
That I love the whole catalog. I love the set that we do, in any variation. It's really in my wheelhouse. I feel comfortable playing that stuff. I get to really just dig in, and for a bass player, I play with my fingers, but I also play with a pick, and um, you know, I love digging in with a pick and just playing that hard rock that could really just beat the hell out of it. It doesn't require um you know kind of the finesse that your fingers might need. I play with Eric Martin from Mr. Big, and I gotta, I'm tapping and doing all these fast runs that,
yeah,
generally isn't, my style, but I kind of get the bullet points done, and so that it gets the song to be where it's supposed to be. But as much as, and I love doing, I grew up on Steve Harris and Jocko and Flea, so I love to, and Billy,
yeah,
so I love playing that stuff. But I also love just you know get riding a low B string with a pick, and you pulling all the tone out and just barking,
Yeah.
and Fozzy is all about that. So, um, yeah, I really enjoy it.
Did you learn on the pick? Because with Trixter, you played with the pick from the get-go, right?
No, I
Or-
learned. I started playing my fingers
Oh, okay.
first. Yeah, first good number of years. Um, I didn't really start playing with a pick until after I got into Trixter. Like,
Oh, okay.
and I just always thought, I should like I always wanted to have options, you know, and especially, as a bass player, you learn that you need to play, both. You can't just because I mean, I did years of cover band stuff, and if I was going to play Ace of Spades, I'll be damned if I'm going to play that with my fingers. I'll be damned if I'm going to watch somebody play with their fingers.
Yeah.
Don't just play something else, please. So and the same respect, I'm not going to watch somebody play, you know, uh, you know, I don't know, a Chili Peppers song with a pick.
Right.
So I mean, you gotta do it all and commit to the role and do what's best for the song.
Well, like, going back to the song thing with Fozzy, like I mean, it's only been a few years, but say with Raw, like, do those songs eventually, like, do you take kind of ownership of it to where it feels like your song, even though, like, I mean, like the early Raw stuff before you were part of the band?
Oh yeah, like that
Yeah.
first record. I mean,
Yeah.
well, it's funny because with Rob, I have even a more special connection with that first record, although I joined the band after it was released because Sahaj, the singer, had asked me to join the band before they got the record deal
Oh, really?
and
Okay.
sent me demos of like all the singles that came off of that record. Essentially would become like "Do You Call My Name" and "Rectifier" and
Yeah.
um, a handful of other songs. So I learned those songs and was supposed to do some shows with them to try to do some showcases. They just never wound up happening. And uh, before I knew it, literally inside of a year, he had a record deal, had the record out, and was on tour.
Wow.
And so he called me maybe less than a year later and said, "Hey, are you available now?" Like, wow, that happened quick. Um, so yeah, I mean, like if I hear "Do You Call My Name," I mean, that's like an adopted child for me for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, like, how did that connection come in the first place? Because I mean, that was around. I mean, Trickster had already, split up by that point, right? Because
Yeah.
what Raw's debut album was 97, 98, if I remember right. Or
No,
oh,
2002, I want to
shit.
say.
Okay, never mind then. I'm way off.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2002 because that's when I joined the band
Okay.
in like May of 2002. I
Okay.
believe it's a little fuzzy, man. Too many bands, too many years.
Yeah. So were you and Sahaj like friends, prior to him asking you, or was it just like a business connection where he knew you from someone else, or?
Yeah, I mean, he actually called me out of the blue and he reminded me that we did meet through a mutual friend of ours. Um, and came to see me play, me and Steve play actually in the cover band that we were doing in Hoboken, New Jersey. And apparently we met. I kind of don't recall it, but he's like, "Hey, yeah, my name's Sahaj. I met you with uh, our buddy Seven." It's like, "Yeah, we met in Hoboken." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, so I got this band, and you know, Seven speaks really highly of you, and wanted to know if you'd be interested in doing some shows and whatnot." So really, that was about it. It was just more of a phone call than anything. And then I didn't really meet any of those guys in Raw until I got on the bus in the middle of a tour with Stone Sour. I was flown out last minute. It was like, all right, learn the rest of the record and be out here in 2 days. So that's how that went.
Very cool. Like when you're in Trickster, you guys, rose to popularity at like the height of the tail end of like the, glam metal era, and then you're with, Raw at that period of time whenever that mainstream rock's taken off, and now, you're playing to 50,000 people with Fozzy. So I mean, you've
Yeah.
kind of had the best of all these worlds in different genres. Is that something you kind of, look at? Because I mean, you're playing to like melodic rock crowds, and then you're playing to like, hard rock and metal crowds.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not lost on me at all. I mean, like, this month alone, I did well in May. I mean, I did M3 with Trixter, and then literally that Thursday, I think I did Rockville with
Okay.
Fozzy, and then the week after that we did Sonic Temple. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I was crossing genres, all month.
Yeah.
To be able to do that is not a lot of people do can do that, especially coming out of the genre I'm coming out of, and to be able to you know do it with Ra and then do it with Fozzy and all the bands in between that I play with. It's definitely something that I kind of hold near and dear, that because I think it's kind of unique, you know, because so many of us, and bands, are just like, you're a hair band, stay in your lane, and that's it. So the fact that I was able to, kind of break through and kind of stay current is pretty cool. I think, it's not a lot of people can do it, I think, and that I'm lucky enough to have had that opportunity and still do. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice little side note.
Yeah. We like when you're doing that now and you're looking at crowds, I mean, I'm sure there's obviously a big difference, but it's like you kind of got passion like from a melodic rock crowd, like these guys are diehards and been sticking with his music forever. And then you've got like a Fozzy crowd where people are like a little more probably into it during the show. I mean, do you get like different feelings when you're playing at these?
Yeah, sometimes, because it's like, doing, say, M3, for instance, I mean, people are passionate there for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
they're a little older, which, who isn't, Um, so yeah, it may not be as crazy as, a Rockville or a Sonic Temple or Louder Than Life, but um, it's great seeing people come out, at in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, and then I get to go do, Rockville, where you're seeing, you know, a younger, festival crowd, a festival crowd in its truest sense, uh, in an active rock world, a hard rock world, where, the new breed of rock fans are there. And, um, you know, when I do festivals of Trixter, there's young people there now that weren't there. There was a gap where the only young people there with their parents. But
Yeah.
now it's I'm seeing this, they're showing up, they're dressed like they're in the 80s. They're completely like it's their music now. They found it and they love it. And it's genuine. It's not ironic. It's not, um, sarcastic. It's these people are here to rock and celebrate music of the 80s and the early 90s. And that's wild to see. I've seen that over the last, 4 to 5 years. It kind of changed from kids being dragged there with, oh yeah, my dad listened to you in the car when I'm away to school, so I'm here, to people, to teenagers showing up by themselves, going, man, I love you guys and Lynch Mob and Rat, and it's cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Trickster, it's like people, especially from that genre, like to complain whenever like an original singer's not involved. Is that something that you guys like paid attention to or, cared what people were saying? I mean, I didn't see a ton of it, but I just mean in general, you see that a lot
Yeah,
when
yeah, of
with any
course.
band.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't, and I think it's because it's Steve and I are singing the songs.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't have like a replacement up there in the middle singing the songs. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just kind of felt that, why don't we just do it? Especially Steve is, can sing that stuff,
Yeah.
very easily, and I've, been working it into my repertoire to I'm singing almost half the set myself, and it's like, um, to me, I know if I saw a band that I liked and they lost and their singer, was no longer doing it, I would think it would be cool to see the other guys in the band sing the songs.
Yeah.
You know, I think I just think that would be cool. And as opposed to getting another guy up there and sing the songs. So maybe that's what has, I mean, of course, he's get, people who don't know the scenario go, get your lead singer back. It's like, well, we didn't get rid of him,
Right.
so I mean, so don't tell us. Um, so I mean, people just don't know the story. So they just say, oh, you need to get your singer back. And it's like, all right, well, you know,
If you can make it happen, make it
go ahead.
happen. Yeah.
You know, you know, the spot is still empty. Um, but I think we're doing just fine singing these songs, and people seem to enjoy it. I mean, I haven't heard anyone, leave the show going, yeah, it was all right, but you should get your singer back.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we're doing okay. Yeah, I think we're doing just fine. And so, yeah, I think maybe like I was saying before, I think the fact that it's us singing the songs, people are kind of like, okay, that's cool, as opposed to focusing on some poor guy who's in the middle, always getting, the brunt of, oh, you're not my dad, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of syndrome. So, which there's no way around that. So, um, I think maybe they're a little bit more lenient with us because we put in the work to try to get it done.
Yeah. Was that was that always the kind of decision from the get-go, or did you think about getting someone else, or was it once you did the acoustic shows, you're like, well, let's just start doing this plugged in as well? Or
I mean, there was talk, about maybe, I know Steve had maybe, because at first I don't think Steve wanted to be a lead singer and the guitar player. We wanted to stick to the format of what Trixter was, four-piece band. He's the guitar player, obviously singer, but you know, me and him on either side of a singer. But I don't know. I guess I was most kind of not resistant, but not really that ambitious about getting somebody to replace Pete. And I think the reality is we just fell into it and we had to do it because the way Trixter kind of started back up again in 2021 is because I was doing acoustic shows with Eric Martin, and we had a week of shows booked, I think, and the first one was with Warren and Firehouse, and Eric was sick, and this was like 3 days before the show, and the promoter, I was like, well, I'll fly Steve out, and we'll just do Trixter songs. We're playing a half hour.
yeah,
How hard could it be? We haven't done it in a couple of years. We haven't played these songs in a couple of years, let alone acoustic. We have no, we didn't rehearse. We have no idea. Just get up there and put it in God's hands. And we went up there and we had a great time. We did a half hour. We had Ben playing percussion because Ben was out with, me and Eric doing all those shows. So we're like, all right, we'll just plop Steve in and, see what comes of it. And we got done. We were like, man, that was fucking fun and pretty painless. And, so we just kept doing it. And then we kind of plugged in as opposed to doing an acoustic. We're like, all right, well, let's just step on the distortion pedal and just kick it up a notch. So it really wasn't like, hey, should we put this back together? Should we get a singer? There was no thought. It was the most organic, natural thing. And we are like, all right, well, this is it. This is where we're at. And we started out just taking gigs, whatever just came in, just to kind of get into it. We're like, yeah, this is fun. Why not? There was no master plan of getting back together or anything. It was just fell back.
right. Well, I haven't had the opportunity to see you guys live since you've been doing this three-piece version, but like, so what songs are you, or what are a few of the songs you're singing?
I sing it. We open with Bad Girl, and I sing that.
Okay.
And Tattoos and Misery, and
Oh God, I love that.
we both sing. We split on and on. Um, Human Era. There's another one, Waiting in That Line. Trying to think if there's something else. There was other stuff when we had the acoustic set list, but yeah, and for Steve and I, we always sang very prominent on the choruses.
Yeah.
So for us, it was pretty easy, just now we just got to sing the verses.
Yeah.
So it came pretty natural for us.
I'm glad to hear you're not ignoring the modern songs from like, Human Era and New
Oh
Audio
yeah.
Machine. Yeah.
Oh hell no. Yeah. No, and thankfully the crowd, asks for them. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's one thing that I'm always surprised and thankful for because we try to keep it heavy on the first record and some stuff from
Right.
here and but people they're really attached to songs like Tattoos and Misery and Human Era,
Yeah.
and it's cool because we don't want to overload the set with stuff that a majority of people haven't heard. So it's great to know that people want to hear that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the song from those two albums that stuck with me the most is Ride.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of that, has there been any thought of you guys recording music, or is this kind of just like a live leaving that in the past with the original four members, or, what's the thought
No, we
there?
we actually have stuff. Steve's got a whole bunch of songs. I got some songs, and collectively, we have we just don't have a plan. So put it this way: if somebody called and said, "We want to sign you," we're like, we can do it now.
Right.
It wouldn't take us long to literally put a record together. Um,
So we
so
need to
yeah,
call
it's
up
just a matter of
Serafino from Frontiers.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've already done that. I mean,
Okay.
who knows? You never know. I mean, um, we kind of fulfilled our obligation with Frontiers up until, Human, and really after Human Error came out, then we kind of went back into hibernation for a while. So, we just kind of uh disappeared from Frontiers at that point because we disappeared from everywhere. So yeah, I mean, who knows whether it's them or somebody else, is highly motivated to get a Trixter record out. We are absolutely capable and prepared.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, touching on it's a lot to take on to do a record. So we'll see. It's bubbling though.
Yeah. Yeah. I just noticed the other day was the 36th anniversary of the debut album.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that album came out on my birthday originally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
May 29th. Like I think I got it like later that year, like sometime in 1990, but yeah.
right. Oh, well, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned quarantine earlier, and most kind of projects that popped up during the pandemic kind of fizzled out. But you guys are still going strong, playing. You've got that tour coming up this summer. You guys did stuff last year. Was that
Mhm.
always kind of the idea to like make this a live project, or is that just something that's happened, over
Um,
time?
it was, I don't know, it depends on who you ask. I always say, Jericho, he doesn't just do anything half-assed or,
Right.
um, you know, for shits and giggles, really. Um, so Exhibit A, we did the first song, No, No, No. We went to radio with it.
Yeah.
Most bands that were doing stuff like that weren't going to radio. Um, and then, yeah, we just really enjoyed that right from the start. So, and then we didn't really think of doing shows the first year or initially until we did his birthday party, excuse me, at his house, and we also did his cruise. And like, wow, that was fun. We're gonna do this more often. And then I started getting calls to do it because for the first 2 years, maybe I don't think we did any public shows. We played at his house 2 years in a row, and we played on his cruise. And then I was getting calls, hey, you guys want to come out and play this place and that place? We're like, yeah, why not? The the one hiccup is everyone's schedule, having Luke Bryan's drummer,
Mm.
my schedule, Chris's schedule. It's, you know, it's a bit much to try to get us all in the same place at the same time. So, but we managed to do it. And every once in a while we have to have, you know, a sub come in and, because Kent is, obviously he's out there playing stadiums all summer long with Luke Bryan. So, as much as I tell him what he's missing,
Yeah.
he's got to go be with Luke. So, yeah, we'll try not to use subs, but if we have to every once in a while, we will. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've been doing more and more every year. It's getting bigger and bigger, and there's especially since Kiss isn't playing anymore. There's
Yeah.
such a market for especially what we're doing in our set list.
Yeah.
Um, it's so unique and so fun that it's really taken on that that end of it, where it's not just releasing singles and doing videos. It's now it's a fully functional band where we're going out and doing you know 10 maybe 20 shows a year or something like that, if we can. And and having a blast. It's just getting bigger and bigger. So we're definitely looking forward to doing more.
Well, yeah, and I mean, endorsed by Kiss, right? Because you guys did the landlocked cruise thing last year.
Yeah, we're doing it again this year too.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that, I mean, I assume because then you've got all the diehard Kiss fans there and you're playing songs that Kiss was never playing. So do you get a
Right.
lot of them just like thankful to you for that or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, including Bruce Kulick.
Yeah.
He's happy we're out there doing it. Of course, he's got his band that celebrates his catalog, but um, we're really taking the show to the next level where it is a show. It's, you know, you know, it's Kiss in the 80s. It's fun. It's, sort of obnoxious, in the best way possible.
Right.
Um, and it's just a great time. And the best thing is that people leave the shows, they go because they want to hear the music, but they're not prepared for, what a good time they're actually going to have at the show. Everyone's surprised. Everyone's like, man, I knew I was going to hear songs that I don't normally hear, but I didn't realize what fun the show would be. And that's definitely, one of the strong points of it.
Is it, I mean, I haven't seen, so is it like, is Jericho playing Jericho or is he doing like the Paul Stanley kind of, corny lines and stuff too, like free song and
Let's just say it fulfills the needs of an 80s Kiss rock and roll party.
okay.
You know, Purple
Gotcha.
cloak and all.
Yeah.
You
Well,
gotta
as
get out
like
and see it.
as a big fan of Kiss, yourself, like what's your favorite album from the non-makeup era?
Um, Personally, Revenge, I
Okay.
think is definitely right up there. You know, Crazy Nights is, a close second. I can go down the list.
Yeah.
I definitely, being in quarantine definitely made me revisit a lot of the stuff because I checked out for a little while there because I was starting to get busy doing Trixter. So and you know from a visual standpoint, Kiss was going through some tough times. It
Yeah.
was a little uncomfortable to watch, but
Right.
and some stuff it was less than favorable, but there's so much good material there. And some of it I even forgot about. So, and especially learning how to play some of it, it was like, eye-opening.
Yeah. So you're saying you guys aren't walking out there reenacting the Look It Up video, like doing the snaps and everything?
Oh, we're pretty close.
Okay.
We're close.
All right.
You have to check it out to see.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time with me again and
Yeah, man.
looking
Good
forward
talking
to,
to you.
hopefully seeing Quarantine and Trickster again. I've seen Fozzy several times since you've been back, but
Yeah. All right.
all right.
Well, might have to make a road trip of it, but
Yeah,
get out there.
will do.
All right, Trent. Well, good talking to you, man. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, man. Well, it's good talking to you. Hopefully we see you out there at a Trickster or a quarantine show soon and or somewhere.
Absolutely. All right,
All
man.
right.
And go Knicks. All
All right. Yeah, buddy. We're
right.
taking it.
Hell yeah. There you go. PJ Farley of Trickster, Raw, Fozzy, Quarantine, Eric Martin Band. He's got solo music. The guy is super busy. And as you heard throughout that, he's got all different kinds of stuff going on. So, whatever kind of rock music you like, this man's probably involved in something that you would dig. But I assume that if you're still listening to this podcast at this point, you're probably already a fan. So, I appreciate you listening. And like I said earlier, if this is your first time listening, PJ was on here once before on episode 275 back in 2020. So be sure and check that one out if you have not before. I've also featured many other bands because, as you can tell by the number here, there's 462 episodes previous to this one. Members of, if you listen to this because you like Trixter, that's kind of been the bulk, not the bulk, but probably the genre represented the most throughout the history of this podcast is that 80s, early 90s melodic rock, glam, hair metal, whatever you want to call it, 80s rock. Members of Warrant, Firehouse, Trixter, Motley Crue, Whitesnake, LA Guns, Twisted Sister, Queensryche, Slaughter, Great White, several members of Tesla, one of my favorite bands of all time. Frank Cannon has been on this podcast 4 times, maybe 5 times now. So has Tommy Skeoch and Brian Wheat as well. Lillian Axe, Bon Jovi, Journey. Some big bands right there, right? Kiss, like I said. Vivian Campbell of Def Leppard has been on this podcast in the past. And I will say this right now. Usually I would say something this big up front, but I don't like to talk about things, and put it out there until they've actually happened. Because way in the early days, I'd say, oh, we've got so-and-so coming up, and then the interview would fall through or something would happen on one end or the other. But regardless, I usually don't mention things until they're official, but I have an interview scheduled with another member of Def Leppard, and that will be coming very soon. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, if you listen to this because you love Fozzy, members of Skillet, Breaking Benjamin, Hellstorm, Three Doors Down, Saliva, Trapped, Shinedown. The list right there is super long. We get heavy. Megadeth, Testament, Creator, Saxon, Diamond Head, Battlecross, The Black Dahlia Murder. So many throughout the years. Living Colour, Leonard Skinner, Shooter Jennings, Vanilla Ice. See, you can tell right there. We kind of crossed the gamut here. So dig back through all those previous episodes, thethunderunderground.com. You can listen right there. You can also stream pretty much most anywhere podcast are heard, wherever you're listening right now. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe if you have not yet, so you don't miss future episodes like that one with another member of Def Leppard that's possibly coming very soon, and all the other episodes that have not been announced yet as well. Follow on all the socials so you can see daily content. There's reels out every day that feature anniversaries, news, comedy, all kinds of great stuff, clips from these podcasts. By the time you're hearing this, there should be a clip of PJ Farley from this podcast, as well as I've got a couple, I think, coming out, so be on the lookout for both those with PJ. There's just a recent one with Mike Tramp of White Lion. He's been on here a couple times. There's another one from that heyday of 80s rock. But yeah, again, a huge thank you to you for checking this out. And a huge thank you to PJ Farley for taking the time once again. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to Sunset Tattoo, DEB Concerts, and Rocklahoma Bitches. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.